Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, yesterday joined world leaders which included United States President Joe Biden and President of France Emmanuel Macron, the Prime Minister of Canada Justin Trudeau, among several others in London for the final funeral of Queen Elizabeth II, which holds today. Osinbajo, who is representing President Muhammadu Buhari, said the late Queen Elizabeth II was a monarch for all seasons who brought people together from all over the world.
On the passing of this great monarch, a monarch for all seasons, we all, those of us from Nigeria, for many years, have looked up to the Queen for her great sense of duty, her common feeling, and her desire to see progress, especially in all of the former territories of the United Kingdom. We're extremely proud of our association with the United Kingdom and the great work that she did all through the years in ensuring that equality was observed amongst nations and her general support for democracy and the rule of law everywhere.
Also, U.S. President Joe Biden and the First Lady pay their respect to the Queen in London. Biden also signed the Book of Condolence.
We've had an opportunity to meet with an awful lot of consequential people. But I can say that the ones who stand out in your mind are those whose relationship and interaction with you are consistent with their reputation. And when the Queen had us to the castle for tea and we were joking crimpets, she kept offering me more. I kept eating everything she put in front of me. But she was the same in person as her image. Decent, honorable, and all about service. And our hearts go out to the royal family, to King Charles and all the family. It's a loss that leaves a giant hole. And sometimes you think you'll never overcome it. But as I've told the King, she's going to be with him every step of the way, every minute, every moment. And that's a reassuring notion. So to all the people of England, all the people of the United Kingdom, our hearts go out to you, and you were fortunate to have had her for 70 years. We all were. The world's better for her. Just because the way she touched when she leaned over, the way she had that look like, are you okay? Anything I can do for you? What do you need? And then also make sure you do what you're supposed to do. Well, I think, look, the American press has heard me say for a long time, but I think the thing that is, maybe it's too much, if you excuse the expression, the Irish of it, but it's about treating people with dignity. I talk about how my mother and father thought that everyone, no matter who they were, no matter what their station, no matter where they're from, deserved to be treated with dignity. And that's exactly what she communicated. Just the way she walked by her staff, just the way she acted.
An Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says Queen Elizabeth II exemplified the best human endeavour. He made the remark whilst visiting Lancaster House in London to sign the Book of Condolence. The presidents of Albania, Barbados, Armenia, South Africa and Ukraine's Prime Minister also expressed their condolences.
This is a time of grief, but also a time of deep gratitude. Australians give thanks for the life of service of Queen Elizabeth II, a life defined by commitment to family, to country, to Commonwealth. Throughout a period of 70 years, Queen Elizabeth stood with Australians at times of joy, such as opening our Sydney Opera House or opening our new Parliament House. But she also stood with Australia during times of difficulties. During cyclones, floods, natural disasters, Queen Elizabeth stood with Australians and was so respected across our vast country for her life of service and commitment. At this time of sorrow for the people of the United Kingdom, Australians stand with you during this difficult period. But we also celebrate a life well lived, a life of service, and a life that will be remembered for centuries to come as exemplifying the best in human endeavour.
Also, more world leaders and dignitaries also paid their respect to the much celebrated monarch.
On behalf of people of Bosnia and Herzegovina, I would like to express my condolence to the people of UK and Commonwealth, to all of those who loved Her Majesty. Time is going to be different now. We are going to count during her life and after her life. She was our inspiration. She was a person of great dignity and courage, and people not only in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also in wider Western Balkan and all around the world will miss her tremendously. Let her rest in peace.
To provide my heartfelt condolences to the King of UK, Charles III, to royal family, and to the people of UK and Commonwealth for their great loss, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Her Majesty was a kind heart, immense strength, and devoted herself for the people. May she rest in peace.
It is with great sadness on this occasion that on behalf of the government and people of Barbados that I record my sincere sympathy to all of Great Britain and especially to the members of the royal family. It was my privilege to meet the Most Gracious Lady in 2018 when I became her representative as Governor General of Barbados. Those memories will be with me forever. And I again repeat my sincere sympathy to all who mourn.
Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman will not be attending the Queen's funeral. This has been confirmed by the UK Foreign Office. Human rights group had criticized the decision to invite the Crown Prince, who is Saudi Arabia's de facto ruler. The prince has been accused by Western intelligence of ordering the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018. He denies the accusation, but has also been seen as something of a pariah in the West and has not been to Britain since the murder inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. Sources close to the Saudi embassy say Prince Turki Al Fayza, another senior Saudi royal, is expected to attend the funeral instead. An invitation to China has caused controversy because of Beijing's treatment of Muslim Uyghurs in Zhejiang province. China has confirmed that it is sending the Vice President Wang Qishan to the funeral. Dr. Bhatti, finally we're there today.
Okay, with a focus in that report on world leaders who are attending. This is clearly one of the largest diplomatic gatherings in almost half a century. And it's the day of the last farewell to Queen Elizabeth II, who impacted the whole world, greatly in terms of her dignity, her selfless service, her patriotism, and how she was a positive link in many regards, both at the diplomatic level and also within Great Britain and the Commonwealth. Now, the issue about, attendance, 2,000 were to heads of state, royalties, including royal families across Europe, from Sweden to Norway to Belgium, to Spain. Even King Carlos Juan, is also going to attend from his Saudi Arabia base. So, big diplomatic gathering. But the question is, who is invited and who is not? That report ended with the indication that the opposition to the presence of the Saudi Arabian Crown Prince has led to a situation whereby he will no longer be attending. But it's not just, the Saudi Crown Prince. Also, Myanmar was not invited. North Korea was not invited. The Taliban leaders of Afghanistan, they are also not invited, just as also Iran, Nicaragua, and North Korea have not been allowed to send representatives. In other words, the Queen's funeral is also an opportunity for diplomacy to make statements. And it's also noteworthy that Ukraine is going to be represented, or is represented, she's already there, by Mrs. Zelensky, who paid her respects yesterday and was received formally by the Princess of Wales. So, and then of course during the course of the funeral, there's going to be a Kiev melody that will be played, during one of the three major services that will be held today. So, we see that. However, authoritarian leaders like Recep Erdogan, has been invited. Jair Bolsonaro of Brazil, who is not necessarily very popular, around the world, particularly because of his own authoritarianism, but they have been invited. Well, some other countries have their ambassadors invited, maybe like Russia, and a few other countries that seem to be against the international, order. But Russia is particularly aggrieved that, they've not been formally invited. And I think the foreign minister of Russia was saying that not inviting Russia officially, is blasphemous. It's utterly blasphemous. I don't know what blasphemy the Russians are referring to in this regard. But there's going to be, a Russian touch also in the course of the proceedings for historical reasons. Now, two other things. One that I think should be noted is that the U.S. President, Joe Biden, who was shown there making a statement, is going to be allowed to use his own transportation. The arrangement is that carriages will be provided by the UK government to transport the various heads of state. But an exception has been made for, President Joe Biden of the United States, who is going to travel in his own official limousine, the Beast. I think that's what the vehicle is called. And also an exception has also been made for Emmanuel Macron, the president of France. But in any case, there are three services. There is first the gathering at the Westminster Abbey, where you have 2,000, persons in total. Then, of course, after that, there is, a service at St. George's Chapel, where you have about 800, persons of leading figures from the United Kingdom and family members. And then later in the day, there will be the private funeral that will be attended by immediate members of the family. What I notice about this is that everything has been carefully chosen, carefully calibrated. 4,000 military men will be on duty, 3,000 of them alone in London. The gun carriage will be led by about 100 plus, naval officers. The Metropolitan Police is conducting perhaps its largest security operation for a very long time, with about 10,000 policemen being on duty. There will be a no-fly zone. The whole of London has been shut down. Anti-drone technology is going to be put in place. Okay, and it's bank holiday in London. So if you want to send a post today, it's not today. Royal Mail has shut down. Many stations will be shut down. Many of the supermarkets, major supermarkets, even pharmacies, with the exception of Boots, that's going to open a number of outlets, will shut down. So the people of the United Kingdom and the rest of the world, are prepared apparently for this funeral that will attract over 2 million people to London, the main capital, from every direction. But there's no doubt whatsoever that this is not just about history, this is not just about symbolism, this is not just about tradition. It is a whole nation and the rest of the world paying tribute to a woman, a leader, a monarch, who was one of the most phenomenal, most prominent figures in the history of the 20th and 21st century. And it's also an indication of the future there. Today, Princess, Charlotte, 7-year-old, and his brother, who is second to the throne, that's the children of Prince of Wales and Princess of of Wales. They will also be part of the procession, following behind their parents. And this will be the two youngest royals to ever take part in this, kind of a major event. And for many in the United Kingdom, this will be, the second state burial that they will have witnessed in 65 years. Winston Churchill being the last person who was given the honor of a state burial in 1965.
I mean, this is the biggest ever, and that's why when you were talking about the Metropolitan Police, this is going to be their biggest drill yet, because most of those in the police force now were not alive in 65 when Winston Churchill's burial was held. But also, even extrapolating it, I think other burials that come close to what we're going to have today will be that of Winston Churchill, Josip Broz Tito of Yugoslavia in 1980, Pope John Paul's burial, and this burial. It's going to be about the four largest we've ever seen. And operations are laid out, just like the operation for this burial was laid out. Just like, a funny thing is, the last state burial of this magnitude in the UK, the Queen was prime in planning that. It was called Operation Hope Not, the burial for Winston Churchill. And the Queen helped curate it, because we all know how Winston Churchill was very dear to her. And in fact, that was the first state burial that the Queen attended, the burial of a commoner that the Queen attended, because the Queen will normally not attend burials of commoners, but she attended. I think the second was the burial of Margaret Thatcher. That was the second one that the Queen attended in a while. So when you look at it, there's a lot of rich history around it. And like you've given out the parameters, London is going to be inundated with over 2 million guests. London itself, population going to about 7, 8, 9, 10 million. 2 million extra people in London, in that small space called London, is going to be cramped up. Like you said, everywhere is all locked up. But the cinemas will be open, because the cinemas will also beam, the funeral live. There's going to be a little procession that the family will follow. And also, funerals like these are diplomatic high stakes. And it's coming at a very critical time, because most of those world leaders, after leaving this funeral, they'll be jetting out to Onga. So the first patch of diplomatic talks pretty much starts at this funeral. And I'm not surprised some people are not invited. Should we talk about Russia? The killing of Litvinenko, the poisoning of Skripal, Till date, Russia has not accounted for those crimes. Andrei Lugovoy came on the Russian soil, a former KGB official that led to the death of Litvinenko. Also, you have cases with Russia, with the Ukraine war, and the impasse, the fact that things are not smooth. But that didn't stop Putin from giving a very charitable word in, when the Queen died. But we all know that Putin definitely will not be attending, no longer part of the G7, relationship has strained and all of that. Probably if a Mikhail Gorbachev was alive, he would have attended, because Gobi was more friendly with the West compared to what is happening now. Countries like Saudi Arabia, obviously, because of human rights protests, definitely the king of the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, beg your pardon, the de facto ruler of Saudi Arabia will not be there. But also, there are also intricacies around that, because that incident does not also stop the trade between the West. And that's why there's a big level of hypocrisy. The West still gather in Saudi Arabia. American presidents still go there. Trump outrightly told everybody that we'll still do business with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is still doing a lot of even business with the UK. Just like the protesters protested against the fact that Saudi Arabia bought Newcastle Football Club. But they're still there, and they're still doing well, investing heavily in the economy of the UK. So Prince Salman not attending, obviously. King, the other king is coming in there, great investor in the West. He's also coming to fill that spot. There's going to be that impasse. The Khashoggi talk will happen, but I'm not sure, because there's no good relationship between the States and Saudi Arabia. There's very strong relationship. And the way the things happen in the world is that they've moved off that conversation. It is sad that Khashoggi passed, but that's the way the world operates. Obviously, when you look at countries also that they didn't invite, like Nicaragua, the other question is the economic might and the likes. Nicaragua doesn't play a great part in the scheme of things in the world and all of that. China also, the Thucydides trap that is going on between the West and China, the new world order that China is trying to create, the new level of dominance. Xi Jinping, obviously, I'm not sure will be able to make the funeral in the first place. He will not be there, because of the impasse that is going on among the West. So, because this funeral too, for me, also reminds me a lot sort of like a minimal level of the Congress of Vienna. It's a gathering of world leaders. It's also a place for international high-stake diplomacy and posturing. And you will have started seeing some of them. America has started. They told you straight off the bat that Biden, no, will not go in that bus with other world leaders. Macron, too, quickly made exceptions. So that's international posturing. And it's also going to herald what the world order will be in time to come. Because funerals are very strategic. Just like when Josip Broz Tito died, it was to end a certain era. But the good thing about Macron attending is that it just shows that, okay, France is probably at peace with the UK now. When Churchill died, Churchill was making, she struggled at the fact that de Gaulle was going to attend his funeral. Because if you remember, prior to Churchill dying, de Gaulle had opposed the UK joining the European Economic Commission. And de Gaulle had a lot of back and forth. But de Gaulle finally did attend that funeral to be able to make a point. And when he went into the cathedral that day, it was very symbolic. So you are going to also have the same here. And that's why, countries like France and America are already doing their posturing. There's going to be a lot of high-level talks going on. We're ably represented in the grand scheme of things by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. That would also go in there, have these high-stake talks. You can see the Nigeria ambassador there to the High Commissioner to the UK. A strong Nigeria delegation will also be there. Will be part of the lot, making these conversations and all of that. The question is, what is going to come to us in all of this? And maybe in coming days, we're going to know. Also, secondly, will also be, services. There's going to be a lot of disruption as regards transportation, like you stated. Most parts will be shut down. It's not a thing to advise anybody to go into Hyde Park or anywhere around London. Leading up to today, we've had visits for the funeral. People have been going to visit the casket, the coffin of the Queen. It's been very symbolic. Members of the royal family mounted guards, the sons and the grandchildren mounted guards, and that was also very symbolic. And the funeral too is going to be the emergence of Prince Charles, because it's going to be Prince Charles's first big day in the sun. His conduct at the funeral, the disposition, the political meetings and all of that. Yeah, he's supposed to be apolitical, but he still does sort of like a diplomatic PR job to protect the image of the monarchy and the state. So these are going to be all these intricacies that are playing out, as this funeral go on. There's going to be a lot of coming back from it, because funerals are symbolic. And if my memory serves me right, one of the funerals I think when I was talking about funerals would be that of Nelson Mandela, that drew in this amount of crowd. And that funeral too was symbolic, because if you remember, it was in that funeral of Nelson Mandela that America started a rapprochement with Cuba. When America met Fidel Castro's brother, that was the president of Cuba then, and the talk that, mended fences as regards American and Cuban relations started at the Mandela funeral. So we will see a lot of fences being mended in this funeral, but I think it's...
Just by way of additional details, Syria has also not been invited.
Bashar al-Assad.
And the reasons are quite obvious about how this is a diplomatic event. And also Emperor Naruhito of Japan and Empress Masako, will be attending. Definitely. And it's very unusual for the Japanese emperor to attend the funerals, but an exception has been made in this particular case.